Welcome, everyone. I'm just going to take a few moments to give everyone time to get into the room. Thanks for coming today. Thanks for setting aside time to be here to learn about this topic. I am really looking forward to being able to share this information with you. So give it a little more time. Get everyone in. So thank you. Like I said, thank you so much for being here. I am really excited to share this information with you today. It's going to be so helpful. And also, just so you know, if at any time during the presentation you miss something or you need to tune out for a minute or two, I am going to be sending this replay out. So everybody who's registered will get a copy of the replay. So you can come back in and rewatch. You can take notes here, and then you can always go back and catch anything you missed toward the end. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I really want to make the most of our time together today. So before we begin, though, I really would love to just take a moment and pause and give you a chance to transition from what's been going on throughout your entire day into this moment so you can really focus. And we can also kind of come together as a group by taking a few deep breaths together. So just take a moment. You can close your eyes or just look down. We're going to take 3 deep breaths together. So take a big breath in through your nose. Exhale through your mouth. Again, big inhale through your nose. And exhale, let it go. One final breath. Breathe in. Biggest breath of your day. And exhale, let it go. I firmly believe that in order to be present for others, we need to first be present for ourselves. So that is how I'd really love to set the tone for this entire workshop, is that we are here together and also present in our situations separately. I would love to hear from you and know who we have here, where you're coming from. So in the chat, I would love for you to type in there where you're coming from, where you're living, and how old your teenager is, or how old, if you have more than one, how old your teenagers are. Let's start to really build that community together. So just go ahead and type in the chat. Type in where you're from and type in how old your teenagers are. So while you're chatting and while you're typing that in there, let me just take a moment and introduce myself and talk about what we are here for. I'm Jennifer Della Quadri. I'm the host of the Raising Happy Teens podcast. I'm a coach for parents and teenagers, and I'm also the founder of the Raising Happy Teens parent group on Facebook. And I'm the creator of the Raising Happy Teens parent group that I'm going to be talking about a little bit later today. So stay tuned for that. A little bit about me, my background experience, and what kind of has gotten me to the position where I can talk about this so openly and with so much experience. On paper, the logistics of it all, I have over 14 years teaching in education, a public school teacher, working with kids, working with parents. I am also a certified professional coach, working with parents and teens for 5 years. And I'm also a certified yoga instructor. I have an over 20-year yoga practice. I've taught in studios, I've taught in businesses, I've taught in schools. So all of this is kind of a culmination of what I'm going to be sharing with you today. But the thing that really does qualify me to talk about this is not necessarily what's here on paper. What is really qualifying me is that I too am a parent of teenagers. I have 2 girls. They're ages 17 and 19. I've put the things that I'm going to share with you into practice in my own life. I've experienced the ups and downs of raising a teenager. I know how hard it can be. I know the ups, the funs, I know the downs, I know the lows and the stress. I'm walking alongside you on this path. And I'm here to share with you what has worked for me, but also what's worked with all of the clients that I work with. I'm here to share this information with you so that you can feel more calm and connected with your teenager in your house. So I see here in the chat, I'm seeing a few people who have tuned in. We've got Calgary, 15-year-old son. Trying to get to my cursor here. There we go. San Diego, another Calgary, fantastic. Okay. So thank you so much for typing in there. Continue to type in the chat. I'm having a little technical difficulty here. Hold on. My assistant is in the chat, by the way. And I don't know how to fix this. This is the joy of live presentations. I'm trying to get my cursor over to my other desktop and I can't. So if my assistant wants to come in here and help me with that, that would be fantastic. I will get back to the chat in a moment, but let me go ahead and get back into this. Here is what you are here for today. And that is, by the end of our time together, you're going to know how to remain calm, no matter what is going on with your teenager. And you're also going to have a plan to put what you're learning into practice. So this masterclass is for you so listen to these things and know, is this something that applies to me? Hold on, I've got my assistant here. I'm trying to get my cursor from here to my computer and it's getting stuck. He's saying he doesn't know, so I can't get to the chat. I can't get to that. So anyway, if you could just type, I can't get to it. Oh wait, it just did it. Okay, I got it. I think it's just his presence helped. My assistant is also my husband. I'm going to be fully transparent with you. Okay. Back to what I was saying. This masterclass is for you if you want to stop being triggered by your teenager. It's also for you if you want to feel more calm and confident as a parent and also in your life, because the skills do transfer. And also you want to recognize where you're seeing that the habits that you have, the behaviors that you have are negatively impacting your relationship with your teenager. And finally, you're willing to take action to do the work to change old patterns. I want to be real here. This is not easy work. It's really simple on paper, but it's not easy in practice. So some of the patterns that we're going to be talking about today are not just your patterns of behavior. They're things that have been handed down to you from generation to generation in the past. And what the clients that I work with are really doing are changing paradigms. They're changing behavioral patterns from parents to kids that have been handed down from years and years and years. So this is not simple work, and I don't want to put light to the fact that this is just easy, because it's not. And so I want to commend you, first of all, for just being here. And that's really what that is at the heart of all of this. Here's what we're going to talk about today. Number one is the common parenting challenges that we all face in raising teenagers. I'll also talk with you about how to understand your triggers. We'll get into the cycle of reactivity and also finally how to break the cycle of reactivity. The icing of the cake is that you're going to not only learn the strategies, you're also going to know how to stay consistent with it. It's one thing to learn all of this on paper and in theory, but it's a completely different thing to really apply it to your unique situation and your life. So you're going to walk away with a plan with how to stay consistent with everything you're learning. So I'm going to start out by just sharing a story from one of my clients. I wanted to share this story because I know I personally can really relate to the challenge that my client was facing. And I know a lot of you probably would too. And it also really does show the impact of non-reactive parenting here. So this particular client, she had a teenage daughter who was about 14 years old, and her daughter was, doing well in school. She had a test coming up, and the mom knew that this test was coming up. The daughter had talked about it, and it was the day before. kind of getting later into the evening, and she knows that her daughter still hadn't started studying, and she was starting to like worry about it. So she started, what she did in the situation is she went in the room and she said, hey, you need to start studying, you know, you're going to fall behind. And all of these worries that she had in her head were kind of spilling out of her mouth. And on top of that, her daughter was not only not studying, she was on her phone. And so what was happening here is the mom was concerned not just about her teenager's grades and how she was going to do on a test, but how if she didn't start studying, how it would impact the mom. Because the past had shown her that if her daughter didn't start studying on time, she would really get stressed out. She'd be up late, and then she'd be coming in and asking for help or wanting support from her mom in the middle of the night, bringing all this stress onto her mom and onto everyone else in the house. So I know you could probably all relate to something like this. Maybe it's not studying, but seeing your teenager doing one thing, knowing that they should be doing something else, and if they don't, the impact is not only going to be on them, but also on you as a parent. So what we did together is I kind of took her through what I'm going to share with you today, and I talked with her about those things. She implemented this plan so that she would know what to do in the future. So really the impact of it, and I'm going to get a little bit more into this a little bit later, but the impact for her was that she, the mom, ended up having a lot less stress and feeling a lot more in control of the situation, even though she didn't necessarily have control over her daughter, because that's something else that I would really like to impress here. What I'm sharing with you is not going to change your teenager. What it's going to do is change how you feel and how you respond, which will impact how your teenager feels and how they respond in these situations. The other added bonus here is that by using this approach, her stress level was reduced, but at the same time, she was able to empower or give her daughter the opportunity to make her own plan and to make her own choice about how to handle studying, which increases her daughter's confidence, builds her resilience, and helps her become more independent down the road. So she's not becoming a doormat or being an enabler for her daughter to continue doing things that aren't necessarily going to help her in the long run. That's the impact of non-reactive parenting. When you are non-reactive, you're able to better make better parenting decisions. You're coming from a place of calm, you're coming from a place of certainty, and then the choices that you make will definitely be impacted by that. You'll also be able to have better communication with your teen. You'll be able to have a bit more intention behind what you say and what you do, which obviously is going to impact your interactions with them. It will increase your confidence as a parent, but it also, like I mentioned in the story, will increase your teenager's confidence. A lot of parents come to me because they're feeling like their teenagers are really lacking confidence, but when you are using non-reactive parenting, you're able to help your teenager feel more confident as well. And another really good benefit here is that it helps you build trust with your teenager and in yourself as a parent. So you'll be more in control of what you're saying and what you're doing, and you'll be more approachable. You'll be more dependable and more predictable. And the most important and probably best impact is it will improve your connection with your teenager. All of this is the result of non-reactive parenting. So throughout this presentation, go get yourself a piece of paper, go get yourself a pen, get yourself a journal. I highly encourage you to take notes so that you can come back to it. And like I mentioned in the very beginning, you can rewatch the replay, you'll have your notes, and you'll really be able to implement it. Beyond the notes, you're also going to be writing down things about your specific situation, so you can really apply what I'm teaching you to your own situation. So if you don't have a pen, if you don't have a piece of paper, I highly recommend you grab something nearby so that you can take notes. And also, I'd love for you to engage in the chat. I can see so many people here chatting already, and that is my intention here. We as parents are part of a community. I'm going to be asking you questions. I want you to be thinking, but I also want you to be sharing what's going on with you. so that we can come together as a group and really support one another. And like I mentioned, my assistant who's here to monitor the chat, type in your questions as we go. And those questions, know that I'm going at the very end. I'm going to get to the questions and answer them all at the very end. So if you type it in, know that I will see it. I may not get to it right in that moment, but I will be getting to it in the end. And also, like I mentioned, we are a group here. We're all supporting one another. So if you see something in the chat that you can relate to or to connect with someone else, definitely give another commenter a like, a thumbs up, a heart, so that we can really connect here. All right, let's get going here. Like I mentioned, let's all just take a moment to acknowledge how hard it can be to parent a teenager. It can be fantastic, it can be wonderful, but bigger kids, bigger challenges. And that's why we're all here. We all have teenagers. We're all experiencing these things in real time. None of us is going to be alone in this journey. And I know it can really feel that way sometimes, that you're really alone in this. And I'm going to get into that a little bit more. But one way to make it a little less challenging is just to normalize the struggle. So what I'd love for you to do right now is just to type in the chat something that you're facing as a parent right now that's challenging for you. And this isn't necessarily just a vent fest. This is a chance for you to share a challenge and put it out there in the open. And like I mentioned before, if you see somebody type something that you are struggling with or that you've already struggled with, give them a little love and support. And while you're doing that, I'm going to be explaining a little bit more about why it's so challenging to raise a teenager. So I'm going to share some of the things that I see in the chat in a moment. But let me talk a little bit about why it can be so challenging. These things are so challenging. The first reason is just a loss of control. As your teenager is getting older, you are losing control incrementally. So when they were little, when they were babies, when they were toddlers, you had a lot of say in what they were doing, the food they ate, where they went, who they hung out with. And then as they started to get older, that there was some distance. There's less control. And your input on their choices that they make isn't as big as it used to be. And it can be really scary. It can be really frustrating as a parent. On top of that, things just pop out of nowhere. You're going along, things feel good, and then all of a sudden something happens. You get a call from the school. There's a fight with a friend. There's a breakup. There's a blow up. There's something that comes out of the blue, and you can get caught off guard. It's really unpredictable. On top of that, there's a lot of worry that comes with that, worrying about your teenager. Will this always be a problem? Will they ever figure this out? Are they going to be able to have what they need to be an independent adult? That's something a lot of my clients worry about, and understandably so. Because you've done so much up to this point to raise a teenager who is prepared for adulthood. And sometimes it just feels like all of that effort has gone to the wayside. So that's one of the really big challenges there. Another really big challenge, and I don't feel like this is talked about a whole lot, is the shame and embarrassment that can come with some behaviors that teenagers exhibit. Because our kids are a reflection of us. And teens make impulsive decisions. Some of them aren't great, which can make us question ourselves as parents and judge ourselves as parents. What did I do wrong? What could I have done better? You know, I've messed this all up. All of that self-doubt kind of comes along with it. And I want you to hear my words when it comes to this. You are a good parent. I know you're a good parent because you're here on this call. You could be doing anything else right now, but you are setting aside time to learn how to be a better parent. So let's just go ahead and put all of that "I'm not a good parent" aside, throw it in the garbage, because that's just not true. You're doing the best you can. Everyone on this call is doing the best they can with what they know. But you're here to know more so that you can be even better. Okay. And then the final challenge I want to address here is, because of all of these things, you can just feel so helpless. You don't know what to do. There's so much support for parents of little kids and even school age kids. It can feel so hard to know what to do and just a lot of uncertainty. And all of that can really lead to feelings of isolation. Like, I'm the only person who's dealing with this. And you can't really talk about your teenager with your friends or even your family sometimes, because your teenager wants things to be private. Your teenager doesn't want you to be talking about their life and their ups and downs necessarily. And on top of that shame, there's that worry of, what are people going to think? What are people going to think about me? What are they going to think about my teen if this is happening? So we're not here to glaze over the fact that it's hard. So onto that, I'm going to just kind of scroll through the chat and share what I'm seeing here. Tina's not listening to any advice, very hard-headed. Yeah. One teenager can't control his temper and one doesn't talk at all. That's the thing about having more than one. You think that you can figure it out with one, and then the other one comes along and you're like, well, I guess I have to learn something completely new now. Learning how to communicate with a teenager instead of a little kid. Yes. Oh my gosh. That is the biggest thing that can be so challenging. So good at communicating when he was little. Now I'm struggling with connecting with him. Yep. That's the loss of connection that comes with that shift. Having a conversation that doesn't revolve around school, grades, chores, etc. Of course, you don't see your teenager all day, every day, right? They may be spending a lot of time in their room or with friends. And so when you see them, of course, you're going to start thinking, oh, I need to remind them in this. I need to make sure they do this, right? And then that feels like that's all you're ever saying to them. Okay, my non-communicative, large part due to inaccurate perceptory story of who I am. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, the relationship of parent and teen can definitely play a part. Suffering from an eating disorder. I'm so sorry to hear that. Yeah, turning to weed to cope. That's definitely a challenge that some of the parents that I work with have been facing, and that's really hard. Having the energy to maintain a healthy family dynamic with my busy teenager. Yep. Home sometimes as late as 9:30, 10. Yep, the schedules are everybody is really tired. And all of this pressure that's going on the teen, it also falls on the parent. Yeah, getting the chance to just unwind isn't even there. Yeah. I know we can get through this, but I fear we lost time and lost months. Yes, my heart goes out to you. That is really a challenge. Thank you so much. And I definitely see that people are supporting one another in the chat. So thank you so much for being so open and honest about what's going on. So first, I want to share with you the thing that is going to be helpful for you in non-reactive parenting, and that is understanding your triggers. So I want you to think, and this is where you're having your paper nearby and your pencil or pen nearby. What are your personal triggers when it comes to parenting your teenager? So grab your paper, grab your pencil or pen, and just write down what it is that when they do this or when this happens, you feel yourself getting triggered. Go ahead and write it down, and I'd love for you to just share one or two triggers in the chat so that we can all hear what each other are saying. And while you're doing that, talk a little bit more about what triggers are. How do you know you're being triggered? So one really big sign is that you have physical sensations in your body. You have a rapid heartbeat, your muscles are tense, you're going into fight or flight. That's a sign that you've been triggered. Another really clear sign is that you're having intense, heightened emotions. Things like fear, anger, sadness. And it's intense, kind of like an outlier of what the situation is. So it's really heightened, and it's also really fast. And then on top of that, you have an urge to do something or to not do something. So to jump into action, to reactivity, or your reaction may be to withdraw or avoid. So let's talk a little bit about how to understand your reactivity. We do have some sharing in the chat. Playing video games without stopping when he said he would. That comes up all of the time with the parents I talk to. Speaking rude, being mean to his younger brother. Yeah. Some other really big triggers with the clients that I've worked with have been, the majority of them have been screen time battles. So if that's you, give a little thumbs up in the chat. That's a big one. Their emotional reactivity. So when they go off, they fly off the handle and they start getting upset about something seemingly out of the blue, that can be a trigger for you. Being rebellious, irresponsible, forgetful, messy, disrespectful, sliding grades, not trying in school, not going to school, hanging with the wrong crowd, right? Making choices, unhealthy choices, turning to unhealthy coping strategies. All of those things are going to trigger us, and understandably so. So let me talk a little bit more about the triggers. Let's go to your specific triggers. Let's go to one. Just pick one, because we're going to start with just one thing here. Pick one of your triggers and then ask yourself, when this happens, what thoughts are going through my head? What am I thinking? And you may not know what you're thinking, and that's okay. We're going to get to that in a moment. But if you were to guess the thoughts that are going through your head, I want you to write on your paper, what might those thoughts be? What might a thought be that you're having when you're being triggered by that? And then when you think this, what kind of feelings are going through your body? How are you feeling? So if you were unable to access the thought, if you weren't really sure what the thought was, sometimes it's easier to be able to access the feeling that you're having and work backward. So write down the feeling that that trigger gives you. And then when you have that trigger, when you're having that thought and that feeling, what do you do? And this is a no judgment zone, right? This is not trying to glaze over and make it look like you're perfect and smile and laugh and turn things around. This is being real. Like, what do you do when you're having that feeling, when you're being triggered? What do you not do? It's also a really good strategy to look at. And write that down too. This is really just a practice of awareness. You being able to stop and just kind of look at what's going on here objectively. And then when you do this, what happens? What's the result? How do you feel? How does your team respond? Really, how does it impact the relationship? Because that behavior, that thing that you're doing in response to the thought and the feeling and the trigger, that's the urge. The urge is prompting you to do something or to not do something. So go ahead and write down the result. And now I'm going to dive into the cycle of reactivity. So now that you have this awareness over this one trigger, there may be 100 triggers. Let's be real. Over this one trigger, let's take it just a little bit deeper. So first off, you're reactive for a reason. Let's just normalize that. There's nothing wrong with having that response and that trigger. But what we're doing here is just bringing awareness to it. So let's go into the logistics of reactivity. There's something that happens that's called the trigger, right? This is the event. This is what happens. Something you see, something they do, etc. That's your trigger. Then from that trigger, you're going to have a thought about it. You're going to have a feeling about it. Some people notice the thought right away. Some people don't. Some people just notice the feeling. Maybe they don't even notice the feeling, but they're there. And then you have your behavior. You have your response. That's the urge. And then what happens is you get a result. That's the cycle of reactivity. Let me apply this to what I mentioned earlier with the client that I mentioned. So the trigger for her daughter was not studying, and she was also on her phone. So what she was thinking in that moment is she's not going to be prepared for her test, and it's going to all land on me. This is going to impact me and my stress. And so obviously she's going to feel frustrated. Of course, she's going to feel frustrated. Like, why does this have to happen? Why does it have to fall on me? And then her response, her behavior there was to react, raise her voice, heavy sighs, maybe some passive aggressive comments like, well, if you would finally put down your phone and get to your studying, then, all of those things that happen when you're feeling frustrated. And then the result that she was getting, she would regret how she responded. She was angry still, and her daughter was still not studying. So her behavior was not impacting the result in the way that she wanted. So here's where the work begins. This is how to break the cycle. Before I get into how to break the cycle, I want to share with you what's not going to work. So many parents think that if only my teen would XYZ, then this wouldn't happen, or I wouldn't have this problem, right? If only my teen would get off their phone and study, if only my teen would stop playing video games when they say they are going to, I wouldn't have to deal with this. This wouldn't be a problem, right? But you can't control your teenager's behavior. I know you want to, but you can't. And if you do, they're going to fight back, they're going to withdraw, there's going to be conflict in the relationship. But what you can control, the one thing that you do have control over, is how you respond. And that's all going to begin with you being able to manage your energy, you taking charge of your energy when you're being triggered. And I want to talk just briefly about how to stay calm. I want to be really clear about what I mean when I say calm. So when people think about being calm, they may think unbothered, or maybe just not engaged or not interested. And that's not what I'm talking about here. What I'm talking about when I say be calm, is to have the ability to remain in control of your response so that you can become more intentional with your interactions with your teenagers. So you're fully aware of the emotions you're experiencing, and you're allowing them and acknowledging them, but you're not allowing them to impact how you show up. That's what I mean when I'm saying calm and non-reactive. So now grab your pen. You're going to want to write this down. This is the non-reactive parenting equation. Here we go. Non-reactive parenting equals thoughtful responses over emotional reactions. In its simplest form, that's what it is. And here are the 3 steps. Step number 1 in non-reactive parenting is to pause, to make space between that trigger and your response. And this starts with you being able to manage your stress. Stress management, self-awareness, so that you can acknowledge how you're feeling and recognize when you're being triggered, and also allow for that intentional space before you do anything, and having a plan for that. That could be taking a few deep breaths. That could be walking away, maybe going somewhere and counting to 10, whatever strategy is going to work for you to remain calm. Just like we did at the beginning of class, pausing, getting centered with yourself before you're interacting with other people. That's step number 1. Step number 2, after you've paused, you've taken a moment to recognize that you're being triggered, is to get curious. What is it about this situation that's triggering me? What thoughts are going through my head about this? And how are you feeling about it, and why? Again, this is curiosity. This is not judgment of your teenager. This is not judgment of yourself. This is getting curious of how it is impacting you. And step 3 then is when you take action. What outcome am I after here? That's a question you can ask yourself. And what action or non-action will lead to this outcome? And remember, you can't control your teenager. So when I say lead to this outcome, that doesn't mean you can wave this magic wand and all of a sudden your teenager is going to miraculously start doing all of these things that you really want them to do. No, but at least the behavior that you are choosing to follow or do is going to lead you in that direction. So let's go back to the example so I can show you how this works and put it into practice. So again, the trigger was her daughter was not studying and she was on her phone. And instead of going to the thought and the feeling, what we're going to do here is go to what the result is that we're wanting. And what she was wanting, the result she was wanting, was that her daughter was studying, best case scenario, and asking for support in advance if needed, so that she wasn't the one carrying all the stress in the middle of the night and in the morning right before the test. So going straight to the trigger, or sorry, straight to the result. Then working backward, we go to the behavior that's going to lead to that result. For her, it was to respond versus react, making a request, implementing a consequence. So pointing out here, this is what I see is happening. I would really like to be able to help you with this. Here's the time limit I have. This is when I can help you. And if you are able to get started and get my support by then I'll be there for you. And then having just a natural consequence in this situation is if they don't follow through with that, then their consequences, they don't have the support. They're dealing with the stress. But at least in advance, she set this expectation to alleviate the stress that she would be having around it. Through that response, in order to show up that way, she needs to feel calm. She needs to feel composed. So working backward, in order to be making a response, I need to feel calm and I need to feel composed in this situation. And then the thought here for her, I'm fully in charge of my response. So notice how the thought in the first example that I was giving in the reactive example, it goes from being out of control and making it about the teen to being in control and making it about yourself, what you do have control over in this situation. And that's really what this is all about, taking full ownership of the impact it has on you and how you are choosing to show up in that situation. So now I'm going to have you put it back into practice. Go back to your personal trigger. So the next time this happens, what result are you wanting? Write it down. Start there. When this trigger happens, what result are you wanting? What behavior on your part will lead you to that result? And how will you need to feel and able to do this behavior? What will you need to think about yourself? That's the backwards working. Now you're going to have a plan for how to put it into place, how to get that calm in your life. So how are you going to create that pause? Write down what your plan is. Are you going to walk away? Would that work for you? Are you going to take a few breaths? Are you going to go for a walk? Right? This includes in the moment, but it also includes your long-term stress management plan. What works for you to manage your stress? And that's something that you'll need to be consistent with outside of these triggers, so that when your stress levels won't send you into reactivity. So that involves more of an effort outside of your daily interactions with your team, taking ownership of your own stress. So I'd love for you to share in the chat what your plan is. The next time you're triggered, what will you do? What's your plan for managing your stress? And if you already have a plan, I'd love for you to share what's worked for you in the past. Go ahead and share that so that everybody in the group can kind of get an idea of what to do, what works for other people. And again, we can support each other. And while you do that, I'm going to talk with you about some of the barriers that can come along with this. And like I said, this is not super easy to just implement. You're not going to be able to do it just one time and be like, oh, yay, everything's fixed with my teenager. This is amazing. What's going to happen is you're going to fall back into old habits. You're going to fall back on managing your stress. There may be some people pleasing, like not wanting to upset your teen, disappoint your teen, not be there for your teen, potentially becoming a doormat, right? Letting them walk all over you because you really want to preserve the relationship. Quitting because you don't think it's working. Self-doubt. Maybe you have lack of support because there's someone else, another partner, another parent who's not necessarily doing this, right? This is so easy to do in theory, but it's not necessarily easy to put into practice. But when you do, the impact can be huge. When you are more non-reactive, you're going to have a better relationship with your team, but that's really just the beginning. When you're able to implement this with your teenager where the emotions are already so heightened, it's going to help you be more calm and intentional in your life as well. and help you feel more in control of your circumstances inside parenting and outside parenting. Raising a teenager really is the catalyst for what could be really long-term change for you in your life. So let's just take a minute to review what we covered. We talked about common parenting challenges, understanding your triggers, the cycle of reactivity, how to break the cycle, and to really put this into practice, to really implement this for long-term change. Here's what can help: to stay consistent with a stress management practice, constantly evaluating what's happening and making adjustments along the way. So the more things come up that are going to throw you off, the more you need to stay consistent, just like you do with a workout routine, just like you do with any other lifestyle habit. Staying consistent. Also, having some accountability, having a group with you, a partner with you to really help you when these things happen so that you're not doing it alone. Because like I mentioned before, you're traveling into unknown territory here. A lot of parents, they just have never learned this before because it's never been shown to them. And so it can be hard to stick with it when you're alone. Having accountability can really help. And the icing on the cake is just having a support group to be with along the way so that you feel less alone. People who are doing this work right alongside you throughout this process so that you're not doing it all on your own. It's a place where you can celebrate the wins. You could talk about the challenges just like we're doing here in this group and support each other. So it's not as isolating and you're not feeling as alone. And that's where the Raising Happy Teens parent group comes in. 12 weeks to calmer parent-teen communication. This group starts April 8th and runs through July 2nd, which means that you'll be able to implement these practices right away so you can start being more calm around your teen and have a better relationship with them. This group is going to help you put into practice all of these things that you learned today. Here's what you're going to learn as part of this group. You're going to learn how to talk so your teenager will listen. You'll be able to fine-tune your communication so they actually hear what you're saying. You're going to learn how to set healthy boundaries so that you can communicate assertively what you're needing and also build trust with your teenager and mutual respect with your teenager. You're going to have a place where you can talk things through so you can make parenting decisions that feel good to you. So when these challenges, these dilemmas, these uncertainties come up, you will have a place to be able to sort through what you want to do about it so you don't have to figure it out all on your own and you can do it with a clear head. So here's what's included in this group. There's 12 weekly group coaching calls. And on these calls, I'm going to be sharing parenting strategies. And then I'm also going to be opening up the room for live coaching. So you can get coached and also learn from what other people are being coached. Because like I said, we're all experiencing this together. A lot of us have the same challenges and the same situations. So you can get support for your situation, but also hear how I coach other people and learn from what they are experiencing and what they implement. It's also a really great place to ask questions and get inspiration. You'll also be part of a private Facebook community where we can connect together, we can support one another, and really put this into practice. So you're no longer feeling alone and isolated on your parenting journey. It's really going to be a positive space where you can share your challenges, share your wins, and really have a space to normalize the ups and downs, because that's what this is all about. We're all experiencing something that can feel so heavy and so alone, but it's normal. This is a normal part of raising a teenager. And it's really a chance for you to meet with and connect parents on a deeper level who understand what you're going through and are doing all of this work right alongside you. And really the best benefit here is the peace of mind that you're going to get, that you're doing something about it. Because parenting a teenager is hard. We're constantly doubting ourselves, and there's just so little support for this stage of parenting. And on top of that, the clock is ticking Before you know it, your teen's going to be an adult. So the decisions that you make now are going to impact what the rest of your life with your teenager looks like. And just knowing that you have support along the way can really take off that pressure. And also, you qualify for a bonus one-on-one session with me, private one-on-one session with me, when you join before April 1st. So in this session, in this private coaching session, you're going to bring your frustrations, your unique frustrations. I'm going to help you get clear on the underlying issues and patterns that are contributing to these challenges. I'm going to give you strategies, tools that are tailored specifically to your unique needs with your teenager. And you're going to leave with a newfound sense of confidence and a deeper understanding of your teen's needs. Which means that you're going to be on your way to a better relationship with your teenager before the summer even begins. So like I said, this group runs from April 8th to July 2nd. Our live coaching calls are Tuesdays, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, so right now. The investment for this program is $1,500 paid in full, or payment plan, $500 a month for 3 months. So when you join, you can qualify for this one-on-one session, and you can get started with this work this week and get on your way to a better relationship with your teen right away, so that by this summer, when they're home more, and those triggers are flying in your face left and right, you'll be more calm and composed, and you can really start enjoying your time with your teenager. Because like I mentioned, this is a really big roller coaster ride, and you want to be connected with your teenager as they transition into adulthood. You don't want these ups and downs to impact your long-term relationship with them. So to join, I'm going to pin the link in the chat, or put the link in the chat. You're just going to click that link and you can join right away. What's going to happen is you'll be taken to a registration page. Click the register here button. Then you can choose how you'd like to pay, in full or in the monthly payment plan. You're going to create an account with an email and a password. You'll be sent a code, the code to enter in. You enter that in and then enter in your payment information. I'll be collecting your name, your teenager's age, and then you just click confirm and sign up. Agree to the terms and conditions. And then once you join before April 1st, I will reach out to you and send a link to my private calendar so you can schedule that one-on-one call right away, and we can get started right away. And this session can be anytime between now and July 2nd. So you can schedule that anytime within the parameters of the coaching group, beginning, middle, end, whatever works for you. And we can get started on this right away. And if you register before the end of this masterclass, I would love for you to type "I'm in the chat so we can all celebrate you and start forming those connections together. And I am going to take a few moments here to answer some questions. Feel free to answer some or ask some more questions in the chat while I share some questions that are common questions that a lot of people may have, and I'll get to your question while I go. So let me share with you some of the questions that I know will come up, the most common questions. And one of those is that, what if I can't make the calls live? That's a big question because I know schedules are different. My recommendation to you is it's best if you're able to come to at least half of them live so you can come and get coached, and know that I will prioritize giving everyone equal coaching time. So if you're not able to be there on a call and then you are there, I will prioritize you over somebody who was coached last week. Another question that can come up is, can both parents participate? Yes, I actually encourage it, that parents who are together in this journey or partners who are together in raising their teenager join the group together. So it's just one joining for both parents. I recommend that both parents join. You can both come to the call. One can come to the call, but definitely it will benefit to have both parents involved. And another question is, what if only one parent is practicing non-reactive parenting? It's, like I mentioned, really effective if both parents are able to do it, but know that even if just one parent is implementing these strategies, it does impact everyone in the house, because you managing your energy is going to impact how you interact with everyone else. So even just one parent implementing this, it will still be very effective. And another question is, my teenager is older. Will this still work? And also same thing for younger. Yes, this will definitely still work. It's never too late to put these strategies into practice, never too early. So even if you have a young adult or a tween at home, this will definitely impact your relationship with them, and it will definitely work. So now I'm going to head over to the questions. All right. I feel like I grew up in a household that only knew reactive parenting. Yep, that's absolutely correct. My teen doesn't want to listen to any advice. Yeah, that's definitely it. Learning how to communicate. Okay, so here is, will we get a replay of this webinar? Yes, everyone who is here is going to get a replay of the webinar so you can watch it over and over and over. Let's see. I feel like I'm having a conversation. How do we get through this? Okay. Let's see. Will the sessions be recorded if the time doesn't work? So yeah, going back to that, if you're not able to make it, I'm so glad this question was asked. If you're not able to make it live, yes, all participants in the group are going to have access to the sessions and the recording. You can absolutely benefit, even if you're not there live, by just watching the trainings that I'm going to implement in the coaching calls, and also seeing what other people are asking and getting coached on the live coaching calls. You'll get the replay, and I will of course recommend that you watch it. And like I mentioned, with the Facebook community, you're going to have access to me through there as well. So you'll be having support there too. So yes, they absolutely will. Okay. All looks good. So I'll give you a few more moments for questions before we end. And as we do, just want to thank you for taking your time today to be here. Thank you for taking your time to learn about this. That is my goal as a coach, is to impact the relationship of parents and teens, as many as I can. And by being here, you're being part of this change. You're being part of the long-term change, not just in your household, but in the generations to come. In all of the different, as your kids get older and they learn to parent, they're going to learn from you. And this is really a turning point for you, and it's a turning point for your family. So thank you so much for being here. You have my information. You can always send me messages on Facebook. Come find me on Instagram if questions come up, and ask questions along the way. I'm so excited to be part of this group with you, and I'm so excited that you've been here. Thank you so much for the support. I see some love in the chat, and I really appreciate you all taking the time to be here, and I will send out the recording for everyone. Thank you so much for being here, and have a good rest of your day. Take care.